and an honor to have him in our midst. We look forward to hearing him tell his own story on the subject we have chosen in his own inimitable way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is now my very pleasant duty to request Sri Manoj to kindly give the this afternoon. Would you like to say?
Put the podium here so that better is not.
ठीक है मग गिरेगा चलिए ठीक
Namaskar, dear friends. Thank you very much, Dr. Joshi. Thank you, Sriman Surjit Babu, for speaking so affectionately, moving me at least if not others, and with kind words about me. Thank you all very much. He has already given me a backdrop from which I have emerged. An Indian writer coming from Odisha, and he is very proud of being a child of a state with a language which has been recognized as a classical language of India. No doubt, the spirit of the language has a great role to play in my creative zeal. That is a different subject altogether. It so happened that I am not a very willing speaker, but Surjit Babu, being like a younger brother and a very cordial friend, when he heard that I was to come to Chandigarh for inaugurating a All India Writers Meet organized by Sahitya Academy, proposed that I also visit this lovely city, Dehradun, which was at least lovely. And I had to meet fellow thinkers and we could discuss certain things. Suddenly he said also that he give a subject, because I was to inaugurate an All India Writers Meet, and I had been suggested by the authorities to speak something on the way of abhivyakti, the art of expression. It suddenly occurred to me to tell him that, well, let the subject be limited to half an hour or so, we can have some questions and answers, but if it is a necessity that subject should be there, let it be creative, streams of creative inspiration. The phrase streams of creative inspiration, in transition through three agencies, somehow became a profound subject as sources of literary creativity. Now, sources of everything is only one, I believe. What is that? All my life I have tried to know that, and many of you consciously or unconsciously must be also wondering where from this evolution begin, where from the whole manifestation start, what is the source of our life? Well, I am still seeking, and even a millionth part of the total answer, if I can catch hold of, I will feel myself very rewarded. I often wondered, a day begins and the day ends, a month begins, ends, a year begins, ends, and so does a century. But how and when did this whole process begin? Practically, one day, an answer came to me very by chance. You know, during Kali Puja, particularly in Bengal, I do not know about this area, a very strange kind of image is worshipped, Lord Shiva lying supine, on his chest dancing Kali, a naked Kali, with one leg lifted, and the whole impression is sees in motion as if going forward. Do you remember all? Shiva and Kali, Kali dancing on the breast of Shiva. It's a very popular, image, and very intriguing for Westerners, even for Indians also. What is this bizarre manifestation and Shiva and Kali in this vision? Suddenly occurred to me, one of the meanings of the word Shiva is eternity, good and eternity. Over eternity, the dancing dark Kali, Kala, the time, which is mysterious. We do not know what will happen in the very next moment. And the term Vartaman, that is present in Sanskrit, a very significant term, Avarta, which is revolving, her one foot lifted, which means past, the other foot is on, but with a motion going forward, past, present and future. So I found on the base, the basis of eternity, the time goes on and on. It is Kali, it is Kala, because we do not know exactly what is happening next moment. And as this process goes on, the whole creation has manifested. Once upon a time, probably all was lifeless. Life manifested as forests, beautiful rivers, etc., etc. When did the first flower bloom? I do not know. And how many flowers, and what a harmony, what a coordination. Who is there behind all these expressions? It's the same force which must be there behind our consciousness, the creative people, through somebody manifesting as painting, somebody as songs, music, somebody as poetry, somebody as novels or short stories, so on and so on. As a writer, I have often wondered about this mystery of inspiration. And probably that is the subject on which I am going to speak today. There are streams and streams of inspirations. Certain, I believe, as you all know, there is no other civilization in the world where such a systematic development of thoughts expressed through literature had been possible as in India. It is a historical fact. It is not something of an emotional statement. Now, in no other civilization there had been such a logical development, if you want to use that word, logical. Vedas, then giving way to Upanishads, the great epics, Mahapuranas, Upapuranas, Sthalapuranas, a line of development. Parallel to it, if this you call, religious is not the word, religion was not there when the Vedas were being written. It is a spiritual quest of mankind. And side by side there has been a parallel development of, we can term in today's language, a secular literature. The world's oldest collection of stories, fables, the Panchatantra, Vishnu Sharma's Panchatantra. The world's oldest collection of fiction, very short stories and novels in embryo, Katha Sarit Sagar. Somadevas Katha Sarit Sagar. The world's first collection of didactic stories teaching a lesson from life, Jataka stories, Buddha Jataka. This is another development, secular development you can say. Now, sometimes I wonder, when there was no press, no publicity, no readership available immediately. What inspired the first poet of India? Forget about the Vedas. There is another question. I'm intrigued. You know, the greatness of a language can be determined by its capacity to speak maximum through minimum number of words. If a great wisdom can be expressed through a very precise passage, that means the language is immensely mature. From that point of view, the language of Rig Veda has no comparison in the world's language, history of languages. But to such a language to come to such a degree of maturity, there must have been a great civilization and culture behind it. Where is the story of that civilization? Where is the history of that magnificent civilization? India is yet to discover its own history. That is why the scholars say Devabhasa, the languages had straight descended from gods into the minds of the rishis, consciousness of the rishis. I won't go into that profound subject. But my question was, when there was no praise and no publicity, no publishers, no readership available immediately, what could have inspired a poet like Valmiki to write the Ramayana? What could have inspired a great rishi like Vyasadeva sitting not far from your place in Badarikashram and writing the Mahabharata and the past Mahapuranas? In other words, they were just inspired. The very power or the force or that great niceness, we can say, which is behind the manifestation of a flower, whether somebody is there to recognize its beauty or not, whether somebody is there to smell its fragrance and feel elevated or not, elated or not, does not matter. The flower is there for its own sake. So there is a stream of inspiration which does not wait for any kind of recognition or any kind of so-called popularity to which we are resigned today, we are obliged today. It is creative inspiration par excellence, we can say. There is another stream of inspiration. Next comes the other stream of second stream of inspiration. Inspiration, creative inspiration with a certain.
Don't look at the watch.
I've been advised not to look at the watch, but I must look at your faces and see how much patience you have.
Please go ahead.
We'll see. Now, the second stream is inspiration which comes with an idealism behind it, a deliberate purpose behind it, but a noble purpose. I spoke of the world's first collection of fables, Panchatantra. You know the story behind Panchatantra. There was a certain king who had three sons, princes, but none of them was eligible to succeed him. They were all good for nothing. They won't be educated at all. They will behave like a bull before a red rag the moment you produce a teacher before them. Now the king was worried. He called a conference of great scholars and put his problem before them. He said that one of these dumb skulls has to take over the reign of my rulership from me. Whom do I choose? How do I educate them? So the scholars advised him that there is a great psychologist, a Pandit Vishnu Sharma. You seek his advice. And the king sent his prime minister to Vishnu Sharma and said that you will be offered 100 villages in turn for your service if you can educate the princess. The first sentence Vishnu Sharma uttered was, which means in Sanskrit he said, I will not sell education. Aham vidya bikram na karoti. I will not sell education, but I will take up the challenge for sake of my kingdom. He came and lived in the palace, mixed with the princess, And at the opportune moment, he would tell them a little anecdote, a little story, a little proverb, and somehow attract them to himself. And they say, tell us a story. He took them over the roof of the palace and started narrating stories. Stories after stories, one story leading to another story, one story built into another story. It goes on. Five volumes of Panchatantra. That is a subject by itself. At the end of which he brings the princess to the king and says, they are graduated now. All that a prince ought to know, diplomacy, politics, economics, administrative rules, through stories I have taught them everything. So was, and this trend continued. Say, Buddha Jataka, each story has a message. Many of you are familiar with Jataka stories, I won't give an instance, but each story had a message behind it, and what a profound message sometimes. So these didactic stories, they are the second stream of inspiration, we can say. Then there is a third inspiration, stream of inspiration. Just expressing the experiences of life. You see, man is a social animal. We have all come together here. What for? Exchange of some ideas. Through your listening, I get your sympathy. Through my talk, I try to, at least I intend to tell you something, whether I succeed or not, which is worth telling. Now this spontaneous world asks for expressing what I know, how I have seen the life's vicissitudes, the life tragedies, comedies, ironies. I have learned them, I want to tell you. Out of that is born is a third stream of literature. Katha Sarit Sagar, for example. Beautiful stories, wonderful stories. Batala Panchavinsati is a part of it. You are familiar with these phrases. But look at the profundity of the stories. Now even today they are relevant sometimes. For example, you take the story which Thomas Mann in Germany adopted for his transposed head from Katha Sarit Sagar. The story is, there is a young man. From his childhood he wanted to become an ascetic. But his parents won't allow him to leave the family and go away. They get him married and to a girl, and so this girl is very fond of him also. He is also fond of her. He forgets about his earlier urge for asceticism. He is a village, lives in a village. In front of the village there is a forest. On the other side of the forest is situated his father-in-law's house. Now one day his brother-in-law comes to take both his sister and sister husband to their house for some festivity. I am being very brief. As they are passing through the forest, they see a deserted temple. They are stopping there for drinking water and having some kind of tiffin they have carried with them. Then this young man, whose name was Dhavolo, he out of curiosity enters the temple. Such is the eerie atmosphere in the temple that suddenly remembers once upon a time the whole world appeared to me to be illusion, and I wanted to seek the meaning of life. And what have I done? I have got married and got trapped in the usual go of life. What is the meaning of this life there? Suddenly, the spur of a inconscient moment, I should say, he picks up the kharga, the dagger which was in the hand of the deity there, and beheads himself. His wife and wife's brother are waiting outside. Brother thinks after some time, what is he doing here? He goes and he sees the condition. Now he thinks that how can I show my face to my sister? How can I go to my parents? What has happened? No use leaving myself. He picks up the dagger and he also kills himself. Now after some time, the girl also enters the temple. What is happening? Both of them. They are not coming out, and when they see the horrible scene, naturally she wonders, what is the meaning of my living at all? And she picks up the kharga and is about to behead herself when she hears the heavenly voice. I can't say to Akashvani, it's a different meaning altogether, but the voice of heaven that stop being foolish like them. The deity's voice. But she asked them, what do I do now? Do one thing, put their heads and trunks together and sprinkle some water from my feet, and they will come back to life. She does that, and both the young men get up. As if they don't know anything, they were just asleep, and all the three start walking. After about half kilometer, the girl realizes that she has put her husband's head on her brother's trunk and the brother's hand on the husband. This is the story narrated by the vampire, Betalo. And the Betalo asked king, the great king, Vikramaditya, whom should she consider henceforth as her husband? The one with brother's head or the one with brother's trunk? And instantly answers the king, one with the brother's head. Because head is the one which determines one's personality. The memory is there, the thinking process is there, everything is there. And the king's answer is found to be correct. So this kind of, there are so many stories I could go narrating for the whole night, but then it is the exposition of life's many possibilities, many wonders, many things unexpected that happens. The third stream of life. So the second stream, with a purpose, inspired writing with a purpose, comes from Panchatantra till, say, say Uncle Thomas Kevin. With a purpose, it is written. So many works in English, also in Indian, by Indian writers. And like the third, these are from these stories of Kathaswari Sagar up to Wodehouse. The whole range is created by an urge for expressing my experience of life. The fun I have seen, I must share with you. The knowledge I have got, I must share with you. Then the third stream of literature, I will brief, now precise. And the fourth stream, that is motivated, inspiration molded for a relatively lesser motive. If I write a novel purely with commercial purpose, once a very well-known writer, Indian writer, told me, he told me with a sense of guilt, Manoj Babu, there was a time when I took to writing inspired by a wonderful zeal to express myself. Well, I was inspired. As days have passed, when I write a new novel, I start to wonder, how will it be accepted by the public? How will I get a publisher for this book? Is there a possibility of it being serialized in the television by any channel? Is there a possibility of a film potentiality in it? Now all these thoughts come and before I sit down to write a novel today. So when one writes with a very limited motive, with a limited purpose of either income, there have been novels deliberately written, 60% social realism, 40% eroticism, makes an excellent cocktail, sells, gets awards and many things happen. This is not inspired writing, this is simply motivated writing. Using literature as a commodity, using literature as something to titillate, to amuse, and with the purpose of either fame or money, whatever it is. But you can't help these things. With the growth of modern leadership, with the technological empire built up by certain unaware forces, it seems, which really infiltrated into many spheres of our consciousness. Certain developments cannot be checked, but that does not mean that the real inspiration, the creative zeal, the essential urge that comes from a higher plane is no longer real. It is there. The inspiration may be there in many of the young writers, would-be writers, young people. Sometimes the inner inspiration needs an external provocation. I'll give you an example before I conclude. You see, the first Nobel laureate of Latin American region, what's her name? No. The first Nobel laureate, Gabriela Mistral, the poet. Now, I should say, how sometimes nature or providence you call, it turns a tragedy into a great blessings. Gabriela Mistral was a shy girl with a very shy nature, and she loved a young man. Now suddenly the young man one day committed suicide, nothing to do with Gabriela Mistral, but some other problem in the family or somewhere. She was so depressed. She hardly had any longer any friend. From her solitary house, she used to walk through a cornfield a couple of kilometers and go to a school. She was teaching in the school and she used to go back. One day at the sunset time, she is returning from her school to her home through the vast fields, cornfields, and suddenly she sees a working class woman, tired, exhausted, sitting down on the roadside. She is in an advanced stage of pregnancy, helpless condition, and a couple of rowdies are passing by. They look at her and give some obscene comments and go away. Gabriela Mistral at that moment felt the very basis of motherhood threatened. As a mother earth under her feet actually is shivering with a sense of shame and sense of helplessness. That night she wrote her first poem in praise of motherhood. And all her poems are devoted to the theme of child or mother vis-a-vis child. You see, the great inspiration was there, creative inspiration was there inherent in her. And something suddenly, just an incident happens, provokes her, and she comes out. The imprisoned inspiration comes out with a vengeance. It takes a form, it takes a shape. And Gabriela Mistral's poems are nectar. You see there originally, they're translated into English. Langston Hughes, one Negro poet, his translation is the best translation, I believe. There are several other translations also. And so, dear friends, this is what I wanted to say by streams of creative inspiration. And, we must be conscious of the nature of any kind of literary works, if we remember, to detect in it that touch, the sublime touch of pure inspiration, or that innocent urge for giving support to a great cause and ideal, or yet another innocent inspiration for exposing the life's vicissitudes, multitudinous aspects of life, or it is pure motivation which degrades our consciousness, reduces consciousness. Because today, again and again, people raise the question, what is the future of literature? With book reading habit coming down, I do not know if it's statistically true, but everybody says that. Mr. Joshi will be in a better position to say, Dr. Joshi, whether reading habit of people is coming down or not, or it is still there. Book reading, I mean. But even if they read a book on the internet or the computer, it is a book. One thing is certain, literature will survive all the technical changes. In what form? That is a different question. Human emotions have not undergone any qualitative changes through thousands of years. A mother's love for the child, a disappointed lover's anguish, our anger, our sense of revenge, all these passions still guide our life. And just as they are irresistible, their expressions through literature in whatever form also is irresistible. Dear friends, I think with the permission I stop now, and we are welcome to ask some questions, anything. If I know the answer to the questions, I will say. Otherwise, I will apologize and say that I do not know, it is beyond me, so that we can have a live discussion for some time.
You can answer questions like that.
Any questions? Just a minute. Kushina.
Just one small question, that are there any young authors in Uriya literature, say in the late 20s, early 30s? And what is the trend of?
It's working.
Mike,
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Just,
can you hear him?
I can hear.
No, this mic is
just a
like,
small question, that are young people writing in Uriya
Yes,
in the late 20s and early 30s, and what is the trend?
Yes. This is not working. Oh, there is a.
नहीं ये बीच में एक सेकंड
No, that's off.
off of it.
Yes, surely. You see, 80% of the writers today in Odia literature are young.
Very
Yes. And their writings are all, as in other languages of India, you will see several experiments are taking place. So also they reflect the same trend. They are experimentalists. Some of them are excellent story writers, good poets. But of course, as you know today, with the development of printing technology and the glittering display of, very easy access to different kinds of pictures through internet. One can reproduce them, make certain alterations, this and that, making beautiful cover pages. When I was first writing, to prepare a block for a picture, one is down to a town, a block making concern, you have to contact, the block will come, it will be printed. Now, in the twinkling of an eye, you can get hold of some of the excellent pictures, make a combination of them, and make a beautiful cover page, illustrate your books. So, as in every language, including English, there are proliferation of publications, most of which may not be of a high standard of literature, but you have to pick up certainly the gifted ones, but they are very much. Thank you.
Any other question?
नमस्कार सर, मैं रंजन मिश्रा उड़ीसा से और पिछले 21 ईयर्स यही उत्तराखंड में रह रहा हूँ और मैं अपना स्टेट को बहुत मिस करता हूँ लिटरेचर। ये मैंने पहले कुछ प्रियमल आपको बताया, लेकिन जो क्वेश्चन आपने पूछा है उसका एक उड़िया पाठक होने के नाते मैं भी कुछ आपसे ये पूछना चाहूँगा। सर, जो हमारा उम्र के लोग हैं, हमने आपको पूरा पढ़ा है, आपकी आसपास के जो लेखक हैं वो हमने भी पढ़ा है, लेकिन आज का जो लेखक है मुझे तो उनका ट्रेनिंग का बहुत ज़्यादा अभाव है। ट्रेनिंग का मतलब ये हुआ कि जैसे हमारे जो प्रोलिफिक राइटर्स हैं उनका बैकग्राउंड रूरल रहा, क्योंकि भारत का जो दिल है, हृदय है और हार्ट है वो विलेज का रहता है, और विलेज की असली स्टोरी का एक सीड होता है जहाँ से सारे इंस्पिरेशन जो आप कह रहे थे वो मिलता है। आजकल के लेखक का वो चीज़ें बहुत बड़ा कमी दिखाई देता है, एवं मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा कंट्रास्ट लगता है कि आप जैसे लिखते थे और आज ऐसा क्यों हम लिखने में नहीं मिल रहा है। तो मैं ज़्यादा ऑप्टिमिस्टिक उसमें नहीं। मेरा क्वेश्चन सर आपको केवल इतनी है कि आपका बहुत सारे स्टोरीज लास्ट में जो एंड होता है वो पाठक को ऊपर छोड़ दिया जाता है कि इस स्टोरी का कंक्लूजन क्या है, तो उसका खुशबू बहुत समय तक रहता है। जहाँ पर स्टोरी एकदम कंक्लूड हो जाता है फिर पाठक का काम खत्म हो जाता है कि उन्होंने पढ़ लिया और उसका कंक्लूजन उसको नहीं है। बट वो स्टोरी मुझे सबसे अच्छा लगता है सर, जो स्टोरी पाठक को मजबूर करता है कि इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन ऐसा है या ऐसा है। उस जगह में हमने उसको समझ ही नहीं पाते और उस समय में हमने लेखक को भूल भूल कर ले जाते हैं। और सर मेरा सौभाग्य है, जो आपका प्रथम स्टोरी मैंने पढ़ा है वो था शेष बसंत की चिट्ठी, शेष बसंत की चिट्ठी, इसको इंग्लिश में होगा कैसा लास्ट लेटर ऑफ द लास्ट
स्प्रिंग।
वो सर हमारा 5th या 6th क्लास उड़ीसा में था, हमारा उड़ीसा लिटरेचर में था, किताब में था, हम उसको आंसर दे रहे थे। और मनोज पंचमी शती में ये स्टोरी भी है। और सर आपका जो मनोज पंचमी शती का जो फर्स्ट एडिशन, आज भी मैंने बड़ा संभाल के रखा है, उसका पेज पर भी साइड से टूट भी जाता है सर। और सर दूसरा बात मैं कहना चाहूँगा, अभी कथा मैगजीन में भी आपका एक कंटिन्यूअस स्टोरीज भी आ रही है सर। जैसे होता है ना, एक रसगुल्ला रखा जाए और एक गुड़ रखा जाए, पहले अपने रसगुल्ला खाने में गुड़ मीठा लगता है, तो अगर आप स्टोरी में पढ़ता हूँ तो बाकी स्टोरी में कभी नहीं पढ़ सकता, तो इसलिए दूसरा किताब पढ़ने के बाद मैं आपको स्टोरी पढ़ता हूँ। थैंक यू।
Yes, you see that was the whole purpose of my talk, create inspirations. How far a story will be remembered, how far it will deeply get steeped in your consciousness depends on the degree of genuine inspiration behind the author's stimulation to write. Now that is why, as I said, it is a bewildering question, what inspired Valmiki and Vyasa to write? There is no readership before them. But for thousands of years, largest readership has been available to them. And not a single language is there in India which has not come to maturity through a retold version of either Ramayana or Mahabharata. Their impact is great. That is simply because they were creations of very genuine creative inspiration. And so nowadays naturally many people, the thirst for easy reputation, and apart from the fact that other motivating factors are there, and I know writers being offered money by a particular political ideologue to write a work which will help them during coming elections. The book will be circulating, they will circulate the book, but the book will appear to be a novel, but the essence of the novel will be political and in support of a certain kind of ideology. Now all these things take away the vibhuti of the writer, the spark, the creative spark of the writer from the theme, from the execution. So they do not last in the consciousness of the readers. So that is the impact of Ramayana and Mahabharata. You see, in the whole world, ancient world, there are only 4 great epics: Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, Valmiki's Ramayana, Vyasa's Mahabharata. In 20th century we have the longest epic in Sri Aurobindo, Savitri, the epic Savitri. But in the old world, these 4 epics. Now Iliad and Odyssey, they do not govern the life of the Greek people any longer, but through hundreds of festivities, rituals, every second, third, fourth Indian's name is either from Ramayana or Mahabharata. So you will find that the impact is irresistible. Nothing can demolish that impact. And all the rituals practically practiced by the Indian families related to somehow the epic incidents, events. But that is because religion has come later, cult has come later, but they were pure literature at the beginning, and because of the quality of inspiration, they are lasting. Thank you.
Any other question?
There's a focus on tribal literature and rural. For example, we're talking of Fakir Mohan Senapati, and he was also talking about the agricultural, the focus is there. Then when you come to Gopi Lal Mohanty, he's also talking about the tribal problem. And later on, for example, if you come to Pratibha Ray, for instance, more or less she's also talking about the poor section the impoverished section of the society. So I'm just intrigued. It means that this so-called urbanization, this globalization, has it not taken place in Odisha as is happening in other parts of the country? I mean, in literature you don't see that.
Oh, in my stories you mean why the extent of rural life is more? Yes. In fact, I have got a number of works, the backdrop of which is the urban life. But all the books and stories which are available in English, that's my original writing, of course. They are the rural Rosso, you can say. The rural stamp is prominent. There is a reason for it. You see, there is a little bit of personal question comes there. I was born in a remote village, so remote and so inaccessible. You can't imagine today. You see, there are sand dunes all around. Even a bullock cart cannot come to our village. You see, and in front of my house there was vast meadows, green meadows, and there are two natural lakes, one abounding in red lotuses, one in white lotuses. They never mixed. Then there are sand dunes, and then there is the sea, Bay of Bengal. Now certainly this setting had left a permanent stamp on my subconscious, but that did not really was the motivating factor behind my highlighting the rural life. I was writing in Odia. I was not blessed enough like many of you to study in an English medium school and all that. That's a typical village school. I learned English much later. But when I was in the college, about third year or so, actually someone read out to me an article on Indian village life, written by an Indian, very anglicized Indian, and depicting the life in such a way as if the village was only a citadel of criminals and nasty people, uncivilized people. I was pained. Born and brought up in a village, I know the innocence of the people, the goodness of the people. Yes, mischief is everywhere there. Everywhere there are mixed characters. In every population there are assortment of different kinds of natures. But this kind of accent on backwardness and the mischief of the village people, that pained me. So whenever I started writing, then I took up writing in English, and I projected the love and innocence I felt in the rural atmosphere prominently. So in my English works definitely will come across that accent. That is the personal reason. But at the same time, it is good that these things come because the village life is far receding to the backdrop. Now many villages have become now cocktails of bazaar and small towns and large villages, and you see that aura of the rural spirit is being gradually, it is disappearing. You can't help it. I'm not criticizing the phenomenon. There are certain things inevitable. But the fact is that the life which was once upon a time there, the characters which are there, so living, so vibrant, they must be also, records of them, projections of them must not be neglected. So that explains why my action is on the village rural life. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, as a token of our gratitude, we would like to give a very small memento